Oh yeah, and welcome to episode 46 of the Temple Bard podcast with me, Jim Wynn, and Philip Noon. Today we're joined by Mark Fearon. Mark, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome,
I'm honoured
Mark.
to be here. Yeah,
Thanks for coming.
Good stuff. So, folks, I came across a video a while back on TikTok, and it involved a societal issue that I thought at the time it kind of shocked me in that I thought this could be affecting a lot more people than they let on, if that makes sense. So when I listened to Mark, it was very compelling. The video was very compelling. So I reached out to Mark and I asked him to come here today, and he did, and I am absolutely delighted. Mark, you're very welcome.
Yeah, no, thanks a million. I said I'd take any opportunity to talk about this topic. So yeah, thank you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, or just a bit of background yourself? And
47-year-old guy living in Dublin. Everything was going great for me. And 3.5 years ago, I kind of fell into a situation which I thought would never happen, and that was codeine addiction.
right.
So it wasn't planned for sure, and it changed my life and made things very complicated, and I'm now 235 days off codeine, so there's been a journey in between.
Lovely stuff.
Yeah.
So just right, codeine addiction. I remember the first time I ever heard about codeine addiction, because I didn't know what codeine addiction was initially. The first time I ever heard about codeine addiction was Eminem. Eminem was addicted to codeine in the early noughties. Eminem had a codeine addiction, and I didn't think codeine was what it is. So could you describe how simple it is and what products? Because somebody hears codeine addiction, they don't actually realize that this is like what it is, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an over-the-counter product. It can be prescribed as well, but in lower doses, it's over-the-counter, and that comes in Nurofen Plus or in Solpadeine, which is with ibuprofen and codeine, or paracetamol and codeine. And
It's an opiate, isn't it?
Yeah. So codeine itself is an opiate. Ireland and the UK are pretty much the only places in the world now that you don't need a prescription for it in any dose. And they're the two places which are now having massive problems with it. So I purchased it to treat back pain, which I'd suffered all my life. And previously I'd been to the doctor and I'd got prescribed like strong painkillers, but I'd be on them for 2 weeks and then I'd be off them. Whereas this time, back pain wasn't quite as bad. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go to the pharmacy, I'm going to buy some Nurofen Plus, and I'll stay on it for 2 weeks like I did previously with the other tablets.
So before the Nurofen Plus, were you on was it like Tramadol? Was it like the heavier stuff?
Exactly. Tramadol. That's exactly what I was prescribed.
Because the stuff they warn you about is the Tramadol. They don't warn you about the Nurofen Plus. You know, the Tramadol is the heavy one, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and it is. It's like it's a very strong painkiller, and I totally underestimated Nurofen Plus. I just went, it's over the counter. That's fine. I'll go on it for the 2 weeks, and then the pain was still there, so I stayed on it for 3 weeks. And next thing I knew, a few months were gone by, and there was one evening I went, why am I still taking this? My back pain is now gone. But I was still taking it. And by this stage, my usage had crept up from the starting dose of 6 tablets a day. After around 3 months, I was up to nearly a pack a day.
What's in a pack?
24.
Right.
Oh, it's an escalation, big time.
Yeah, well, it really was. Every week I just took more. And I just I wasn't even sure why. I kind of like, when it's treating the pain more, they were just easy to get. So I said, look, it helps with my pain. So I kept on upping the dose. And then it was a few months into it, and then I went, right, why am I still taking these? The pain is gone. And I just said, okay, that's it. No more. And I remember one evening I said, that's it. I'm never taking them again. And I still remember that night. I didn't sleep for a second. It was my first ever experience of withdrawals.
Yeah.
I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what to expect. It was rough.
And at this stage, are you on a pack a day at this stage?
Yeah. And that morning, the following morning, I was sitting outside the pharmacy waiting for it to open so I could go and buy it, because I was just like, what is this?
And did you think, in the time when, in this first escalation from 6 a day to 24, did you think, were you ever getting like any kind of psychotropic effect or anything from it? Or do you think it was like subconsciously or consciously? Or?
Yeah, that's, and I get asked that a lot. And to start with, it was purely to treat pain. And then I think it changed into treating pain And I'd been on it for so long, it was also to keep away the withdrawals without even knowing what withdrawals were, but I just felt better on them because when I didn't take them, the early withdrawals were starting to kick in. And that's only something I realised now looking back at it. But then as my usage then continued even further, that's when I started to notice this real small euphoric feeling. And it's a real subtle feeling, but it was there. And that was something then which got me completely and utterly hooked, and I started to chase that feeling.
Can you describe maybe the first night of withdrawals? Because a lot of people listening to this maybe will know someone, or maybe, like Nurofen Plus and Solpadeine are in everyone's house.
Yeah.
They're in everyone's house. Like I remember I got a wisdom tooth out, and I was on Nurofen Plus. Whatever the strongest, I remember I was on the strongest Nurofen Plus, whatever that was, for the duration of whatever that wisdom tooth was. And so, like, could you describe them withdrawals? Was it the sweats? Was it the night sweats? Was it the...
Yeah, for me, it was restless legs. But restless legs, it's something which I'd suffered before, but this was an extreme where I just, the ache and the pains in my legs, and if I didn't keep on moving them, it just got too much. Like they got really, really bad, and they went up into my arms as well. Like it was just, and they really hit at night. But again, at that stage, at the pack a day, they were bad, the withdrawals, but there was a lot worse to come because again, my usage kept on going up at this stage. Because at that stage, I realised I have a serious problem here. And that's when I went on the internet and I tried to see, was anybody kind of talking about it, and nobody was, and there wasn't much information out there. So I just decided to myself, okay, look, I'll just kind of lower my doses and come off them slowly. But that went on then for another couple of years, and my usage kept on going up.
Just creeping up, kind of.
Kept on going up, yeah. And it was, but by that stage, the reason it was going up is because I'd felt that euphoric feeling. It's an opiate. I started to chase that feeling, and it's real subtle. I mean, you take it and people would
becomes
know.
your baseline kind of thing.
Well, it's just, it was a feeling which I wanted, and I was completely addicted to, and I just had to have it, and that's what brought me up. Then kept on going up and up to 3 packs a day, like 72 tablets.
It's really not even still. I know because I had a tooth out maybe 2 months ago, and they gave me a prescription. I got 3 packets of 24, I think, codeine, Solpadeine things for me tooth. I took one of them, not one packet. I took one tablet, and my tooth wasn't so bad the next day. I didn't need any more. So why would they give someone 3 packets of them? So if you just thought maybe I should just keep taking them, then you could easily just get addicted just because you thought that's what was prescribed to you.
Absolutely. And I hear, like, my problem was over-the-counter codeine, but I hear from so many people that have the problem with prescribed codeine or other painkillers because they've been just overprescribed and left on repeats. So yeah, like it can come from anyway. Like codeine is codeine. Yeah, it doesn't matter which. Well,
they're all just different variables of opiates, aren't they? Really. So
yeah.
So are you experiencing opiate like similar to like a heroin withdrawal or like an opiate withdrawal? Is that what you're experiencing? Or
yeah, like absolutely. I said I was on 3 packs of Nurofen Plus for a couple of years, so like I was up at like it was. I mean, if you look at the levels, it was up at nearly 1,000 milligrams of codeine every day. So to come off that, having been on it like solidly for 2 years, was going to be a process. And I eventually went to my doctor because, again, this was all in secret and hiding. I wouldn't tell anybody because I was so ashamed of it. I just, nobody would understand this. I'm not telling anybody. But as the time went on, my physical health was getting so bad because I'm having like so much ibuprofen to get that codeine.
So hard on your stomach.
If anyone was to try, just take it out, that would kill anybody straight away. Yeah. It's like opiates all work the same. You build up a tolerance over time, and we've talked about it on the podcast before. A lot of people who are heroin addicts, they give up heroin for a while, and what happens is they die from taking that dose similar to what they were taking before because their body is not used to it. Like you build up such a tolerance, and that comes with it's an exponential. You have to take more and more and more and more just to keep the baseline.
Mark, if you don't mind me asking, right, at 72 tablets a day, did you because like with all addictions, and you are hiding it, you're gonna need it has to be organized. So like because I'm sure you can't just walk into 2 pharmacies 2 days in a row and ask for 72 tablets, and so because they probably You know, and would they start to recognize you? Would you have, you know, is there a system? How are people doing it?
Yeah, like my life revolved around codeine. It got that serious. You know, I had to go to 3 pharmacies a day to feed this addiction, and I couldn't go to the same pharmacy, so I was always planning my route of where I could go. Now I was kind of working a lot of time in the car and sales, so I could go to different areas, but it was like my life revolved around making sure that I got my 3 packs of codeine a day. And the time that took, and the stress it took, you know, because there's a time to go and get it, you know, then to actually have it, to hide it, that people don't see it, the taking of it, you know, and then disposing of the rubbish of it against people don't see it. Like every part of my day revolved around
keeping this kind of secret.
Yeah, and then the stress on top of that of being caught, and it went on for so long, and I was always trying to say every Monday, I said, okay, this is the week now. I'm going to just drop it down. Like at this stage, I knew I couldn't just stop. But I was like, okay, I'll just reduce it down. And that was, I'd last till Tuesday or Wednesday, and then it would just go back up again. And until people started to see me and could see a change mentally, in that I'm someone who likes to be out and about, social, chatting, meeting people, whereas I'd started to hide away at home. I mean, people didn't see me anymore. I just didn't want to be around people. I wanted my codeine, didn't want anything to get in the way of that, and I was changing from someone who loved life to someone who was miserable, like really miserable, and equal damaging was my physical health. Like I was getting so sick. I was vomiting blood all the time. It just, I'd no energy. I was turning green. The pain in my stomach. I was so ill.
I know ibuprofen affects your gut biome and stuff like that. So like that's stuff that keeps your body in stasis. So you think the side effects from messing with stuff like that must have been horrific.
Well, I think the maximum kind of dose of ibuprofen you're meant to have in a day is about 1,000 milligrams, and that's kind of short term.
What's that in tablets?
I think it's 6. Sorry, it'd be 1,200, because it's 6 Nurofen Plus you're meant to take, and that's the maximum, which will be 1,200 milligrams of ibuprofen.
So what's 72?
I was having over 14,000 milligrams of ibuprofen every day, you know, and I mean, even whilst I was that ill, that sick, knew I was getting in serious physical trouble here, I still kept on taking them. I just couldn't stop. I got into such a place, and looking back at it now, I'm just like, I'd like to think I'm not a really stupid person, but that was just, I think it's hard to explain.
I think we all get into these patterns and we don't see it until it's past us, you know. I had a lot of problems with tension in my body and rehabbing it, and I ended up having a thing collapse in my nose. And all these, I had it for decades, and I didn't even know this was it. I never noticed it was what was the cause of it all until it all collapsed. So in a way, like we set up these patterns in life, and it becomes the normal. And it's not until we break down or something changes or we finally hit the rock bottom or whatever it is, it takes something then, and then we can look back and go, how did I let it get to this? Yeah. But I suppose we can't judge ourselves. We just move on, and it's great to hear that you've done, what's
235 days.
235 days.
Not that I'm counting.
That's a big thing, counting. So take every day at a time, isn't it?
No, it is. And look, and I said I got into a really bad place, but thankfully, I kind of nearly had to, because everybody who saw me went, "What? There's something wrong with you. There's something really wrong." So I eventually went to the doctor, and I wish I'd done it sooner, because I was just so ashamed of it and thought people would understand it, including the doctor. But he was great. He was absolutely brilliant. He was just like, there was no judgment. He said, right, you know, he'd heard this before. He'd heard it from a lot of people. So he went, right, what were you taking? When were you taking it? How long were you taking for? And he put me instantly onto a tapering down plan with codeine only tablets. So the ibuprofen was gone. Yeah. And then I started to taper down. Now, I'd let my usage get so bad, and I wasn't kind of tackling the mental side of addiction as well, which is equally as important. You know, it's not just coming off the tablets, it's to look at the reason behind the addiction and be made clear of what the addiction is doing. I didn't do that first time with the doctor, and I ended up relapsing whilst I was tapering down. And then I went back onto the Nurofen Plus even after all that. And sorry, I'm also missing that I was rushed to hospital to get blood transfusions.
Oh, really?
3 pints. My blood results came back, and the doctor rang me and said, you have to go to the hospital now. You're about to have a heart attack or a stroke. Your hemoglobin is so low, that you've no oxygen traveling in your blood. Like, this is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, so I was rushed in. I spent 4 days in hospital getting multiple bags of blood, getting scopes in to see the extent of the damage and all that. And even after all that and tapering, I still went back onto Nurofen Plus.
Yeah.
Mark, how long was this over? How many years was this over?
Yeah, so the whole thing was 3 years.
Okay.
About 3 years. But I suppose it was about kind of 2.5 years when I finally went to the doctor, and then I spent the next kind of 3 months tapering down. I relapsed, and I spent another month with my usage going back up, and then I went, actually, no, I can't, like, this will kill me this time. My body won't take this again.
Yeah.
So that's when I came clean. I told my family, I told my friends, because I knew I had to get proper help. So I went back to the doctor then, and he said, okay, rehab. And that's when I went to St. Patrick's Hospital here in Dublin for 7 weeks, and that saved my life.
It's like it's probably the thing you feared was letting all these people know, but as soon as you do it, it's the weight's lifted off you.
Yeah.
It's such a thing. We hold on to these things like everyone's going to think of me differently, but as soon as we were able to let it go, it's just such a relief, you know.
Absolutely. And look, they were all shocked. You know, nobody expected me to be turning around and saying I'm addicted, like badly addicted to Nurofen Plus, and it's killing me. But every single person knew there was something wrong.
Yeah.
There was not one. They knew something was wrong. They knew something was changing for me. They just didn't know what it was. So in one way, it was kind of a relief to have an answer to that.
Yeah.
But it was just a relief for me.
Wasn't what they were expecting to hear. But
No,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Had you ever
not.
have any addictive personality traits before? Or?
Yeah, well, food for me has always been something which I've battled with. At one stage, I was 27 stone. So food is one. See, I used to play rugby at a high level, and then once that stopped, I kind of went the other way and started kind of drinking too much, and not problem drinking, but just calorie wise having too much. And eating and just So that's something which I'm always keeping an eye on. But I used to smoke as well after my rugby as well. But I haven't smoked in 13 years now. So
a lot of people actually say that. I know people who've given up heroin. They said giving up cigarettes was the harder thing to do.
It's not.
I wouldn't say so.
It's not.
There's one thing in this that's just screaming at me, right? And it's so we're in Dublin now, right? And we're Dublin based, and your addiction was Dublin based, if that makes sense. I'm from a small town in Ireland. I'm from Cavan. In a small town in Ireland, how is someone going to get their hands on 72 Nurofen Plus a day without someone saying something? Because even though you were in Dublin, I'm sure over the course of 3 years, pharmacists start to recognise you.
Absolutely they did. Yeah, no, absolutely. But I tried to leave it about 3 or 4 weeks before I'd go back to pharmacy. But still, I mean, they'd see me coming back, and and some of them would call me on it. And like the pharmacists, some people kind of nearly blame the pharmacists for this, and it's not their fault. The regulation is there that it's there to sell. Yeah. And if they don't sell it, the pharmacy next door will sell it. But yes, I was definitely called on it sometimes. But going to your question of if somebody's living in a small town, and I've heard from people because you wouldn't believe the many people that get.
Well, you have a very big TikTok platform now, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's So what's the handle on TikTok? Just
Mark's Recovery.
Mark's Recovery.
Yeah, or just Mark Fearon if you type that in.
Because you're hearing all the stories.
Oh, I'm like it's hundreds. No, it's probably up to over thousands now. Like of people, like I get about 20 to 25 private messages a day from people just looking for advice, or just in a lot of cases just to tell me. Like they actually write like a huge long message to me and say, "Look, I'm not actually looking for a reply. I just wanted to tell somebody."
Yeah,
like I'm
only holding on to it by themselves.
Yeah, and that's why I talk about it. But just going back to your question, you said that if you're from a small town, what do you do? And I've heard from people, and it's the lengths that people go to. And so there was one lady who was in touch now. It was I'm not sure which town it was. It doesn't matter which town it was. No, but she had an addiction where she was needed around a pack a day, and every weekend. And she didn't drive. So every day, her weekend was getting on a bus to one of the big cities. Again, I'm not sure which one she was beside, but the bus to go in, and she spent her day getting her week's supply and then coming back. And her life is that at the moment.
Yeah, it's like a full-time job. Oh. It's I had heard of someone I know somebody I know on on Facebook a few years ago had put up a post about it as well. And it's a similar thing. Like I think we've grown up in a kind of a paradigm where we talk about it here, where we're getting to a place now where we're a lot more health and fitness based and well-being and saunas, and the drinking culture's coming down a bit and stuff like that. But there's still, we grew up in a place where it was all antibiotics and take your paracetamol, take Valium or whatever, Mother's Little Helpers and all this kind of thing. Yeah. And there's so many different agendas at play, whether it be keeping doctors in the loop, keeping pharmaceutical companies making money, or trying to, as they say in America, like eliminate pain or something. It's something that I think we're starting to see now, and it's great to have things like TikTok. We always complain about social media and all the craziness that goes on there, but somebody can come across you and feel like, oh shit, I'm in the same boat. I couldn't tell anybody, and now I can see that I'm not alone. You know.
Absolutely, and I didn't use TikTok. And the day I left St. Patrick's Hospital here in Dublin after 7 weeks, which were an incredibly tough 7 weeks, but I actually look back at them fondly because they were 7 weeks that have saved my life. But the day I left, I said, this needs to be talked about. And I'd spoken to my family before, like the week kind of before I left, and said, I think I'm going to go public with my story because this needs to be talked about. People, for whatever reason, it's okay to talk about all the other addictions, but codeine isn't. Nobody talks about it. And they said, if that's what you want to do, then go for it. And this will sound crazy, but TikTok has been a really important part of my recovery. And I know to a lot of people that would just sounds a bit ridiculous. But it is, because I'm chatting every single day through the live events I do, and it's always like hundreds of people in those daily.
Yeah.
And then the videos I do, the hundreds of messages, and then the private messages. And so many people are suffering with this, and this is giving them a way to actually feel okay.
Yeah, community, and they can talk to it, and they can bounce. It's a bit like for the other addictions, when you have stuff like Alcoholics Anonymous, you can have, when you meet up people who have done the same things, you can hear their stories, how they've suffered in different ways. It brings a togetherness, and things are a lot easier to face as a community than they are on their own, you know.
I kept this a secret. I told nobody, and to the point of I was that close to not being here, you know. It was so serious, but I still just kept it secret. And the first time I ever got to speak to somebody who was also a codeine addict was in rehab. And I remember that day, it was just a relief to actually talk to him. Said, "Did you experience this? Did this happen to you? What? Just to talk to someone who got it." The teachers, the doctors and the nurses, all those people who were helping me were amazing, but they didn't get it.
They weren't living it day to day.
No, so that's.
You didn't know about going to the chemist to that guy again who'd seen you last time, and having to go back again, and.
There's such power in talking and sharing, and that's I kind of haven't stopped talking since I left. And it's helping my recovery. And then I've heard from so many people that have gone the route that I went to get in touch with their doctor, having talked to me, and that's, I like to hear the story. And I had such fallout, and I'm rebuilding my life. Like, this really damaged me in every way a life could be damaged, but. It does make me feel a little bit better that what I went through can help someone get out of it quicker. Yeah. And I'm not a professional or anything. Of course, I'm not. It's just passing on lived experiences.
Yeah, exactly. That's doing the best with your platform, I think. I think that's a beautiful thing, really. Yeah.
Mark, you said something at the beginning that was you said that Ireland and the UK specifically now are kind of behind everybody else on this. They're kind of a little bit behind the... Is it that the US had the problem earlier, or have we not caught up? Or?
Yeah, no. In the States now, it's I'm not sure how long codeine has been prescription only, but it has been for a good few years now. Do you need prescription for it? Now, obviously, the States have problems with all the other fentanyl and all those.
The problems with the States was that everyone was getting the prescriptions. I think was more.
Yeah, exactly. But Australia used to be the same as us, and 4 years ago they went. Prescription only for codeine, and that was one of my things talking about. Look, something has to be done here. This can't be left just on sale, because I've seen with my own eyes when I was in a pharmacy, and I was in a lot of them. It was every second or third person was buying a codeine product, and that's not an exaggeration. And I hear from lots of pharmacists, and every single pharmacist I ever speak to, they said this, like the scale of this.
If we were a pub, this would be the Guinness.
Oh, it is. No, it is. Like it, and it's scary. But I suppose where Australia kind of could go to prescription only, their healthcare is so much better. You can go and see a doctor. You can get in. It's tougher here. And anytime on my TikTok, and I have done videos saying it should go to prescription, I do get a lot of heat back from people and saying, well, I need pain medication from time to time, and I don't have to go and visit a doctor. And so I've been in big discussions about this because it's important, and especially for women's health, that once a month that they can have access to pain relief, or if you hurt your back and you just don't want to have to go to the doctor. So I think, and it has to be easy to set up, that every single person has to show their ID to get a codeine product, and you're entitled to buy one.
Yeah.
If you buy more than one a month, you're flagged and it stops.
You don't have to show your ID at
No,
all.
no. You can just keep on buying it. So that has to be a system, I think, that comes in. But it's not one which you can announce that's coming in tomorrow. And this was only brought to my attention when I said it should go to prescription tomorrow. Somebody went, what would have happened when you're in the middle of your addiction if suddenly codeine wasn't available?
Yeah.
Like, what would have you done? I said, I don't know, but I would have gotten codeine, or I would have gotten something. Yeah. So that would have been straight to the internet, some dodgy website.
I think that's what happened a lot in America, actually, is that when they found out that everyone was prescribed and addicted to these tablets, a lot of them went on to heroin, like
the oxys.
Yeah,
people were coming off heroin to go on oxycodone,
and vice versa. Like there was people who were like, they were into sports that had an injury, like started taking oxycodone or something, and then after that they were so addicted to it they couldn't get any more through prescription, so they ended up on heroin. So it's people who never in their life would have went on heroin, but through this loophole or whatever way, just this life circumstance has brought them to the same addiction, really, just in a different packaging or a different marketing ploy.
Absolutely, and I said, the scale of this problem, that it is a problem now. But I think if they said, look, in a year's time, it's going to go to prescription, so you have a year to get help and because you do need help with this, and do something about it. Because like if I suddenly couldn't have bought my Nurofen Plus tablets, I would have had to go to the streets and buy something. I just wouldn't have been able to not to. So would have I been able to buy codeine? I probably not. So I would have bought some other kind of opiate or something. And that's the danger, the
tablets
of it.
And stuff like that. A lot of people are into. Yeah, it's and again, like with all addictions, it's the addiction itself is a symptom of something deeper, And I think we're getting better as a society at seeing that now. There's still, of course, all the problems and ways people can get addicted to things and all the addictions, but we're getting better at talking about it, and we're getting better at seeing that it is just a symptom to something deeper, so some trauma or something that we've held on to or pushed away from the past.
Absolutely, and I said that was the great thing about going into St. Patrick's Hospital. Part of the program was speaking with psychotherapists, an addiction counsellor, group therapy. I had never in my life ever, like, to one person ever went, I'm having a bad day or I'm not feeling great. It's just something I'd never done.
I'm grand.
Yeah, I'm grand. No, it is.
Yeah.
And that's
but it's a very Irish thing too. And the more I hear Dr. Gabor Mate or Bessel van der Kolk speak, especially about trauma stored within the body and about, I just think it's more of an Irish thing that you just don't, you were taught, you weren't taught not to speak about it, but nobody did, so you just assumed, I'm grand. I'm grand.
Absolutely.
There's not a bother on me. Yeah, right, not a bother on me.
Absolutely. And I remember, I went into the first meeting with the one-on-one with the psychotherapist thinking this could be a bit of a waste of time now because there's nothing wrong with me.
I'm grand.
There's not a bother on me. Yeah. Just the tablets. Like, once I stopped taking them, within 2 minutes, I was like, oh, maybe I'm not grand.
Yeah.
No, and the power of talking, even in that first session, I was like, oh my God, this is so important. This is just as important coming off the tablets is looking at why I was on the tablets and the hold they had on me. And that, I said, it was equally as important as coming off the drug itself. Was looking at the reason behind it. And then like in St. Patrick's, it was in the addiction wing. It's a big mental hospital, but they've an addiction wing where there's roughly around 40 people. Mostly there for alcohol, but it was all addictions. But it didn't matter what the addiction was. All the behaviours were the same. Like pretty much everyone hiding away at home, doing it by themselves, ashamed of it. And they say like addiction loves you to be isolated and by yourself, and that's exactly what I was. So it doesn't matter in a lot of ways what what the substance is. It's looking at the reason why.
It's just a form that you're attaching to, or that you've given a major crutch or whatever. I think, and I think that's something that we're starting to understand a lot better as a society now, because I think before, like even the marches on drugs and back in the day for heroin and all, like people always blame the drug, like this drug is killing everybody. It's not. It's the socio-economic problems that brings to people selling this drug and taking this drug. It always goes deeper than the form it takes.
But then I feel this is really dangerous in that if you had known from the beginning that you could abuse codeine, you wouldn't have done it. But this crept up on you, if that makes sense. This stemmed from a problem that was so you started with a back problem, and then the addiction came from a feeling that you didn't know was going to be there from a product that you were using for something else.
Yeah, but it's absolutely. But most people can take Nurofen Plus and not have a problem with it. Like most people use painkillers and it's fine. There's just some people that it just affects, and it just becomes a problem. And that's like, I'm never here saying that people shouldn't take painkillers. Like, absolutely not. Like, if you're in pain, you should be managing your pain. But just for some, it grabs them, and it makes it harder to break free from it. And I said, the stuff I went through with the addiction counselor, it was stuff that was there, and it was the perfect recipe for something like codeine. It just numbed my feelings. Like codeine is to numb pain, but it numbs your brain, it numbs your personality, it numbs everything. So you don't have to think about anything. You don't. It just blanks.
Don't go higher, low. They just
absolutely. And like, I'd wake up in the morning just feeling flat. And just I'll go get my codeine, and that's it. Like, I was a totally different person. So, like that, it's just for some people, and which is a lot of people. But it is a dangerous thing to be able to just go and buy in whatever quantities you want. It really is.
Especially as it's kind of not, like illegal drugs, people know that they're addictive, but stuff like codeine is like seen as like a doctor. This is doctor prescribed. That's what makes it dangerous. My opinion on drugs especially is like decriminalisation, and eventually like a legalisation where a certain percentage has to go to the treatment of addiction. So I think that kind of speaks. So I think the drugs themselves aren't the problem. That's my own thing. So I think with something like codeine that's in prescribed medication, the problem there is that people can.
I think it's more dangerous, Jim, because it's not prescribed. You don't even need a prescription.
Yeah.
So like I think if you needed a prescription, I think people would be like, okay, it's addictive.
Yeah.
But if I don't need a prescription, maybe it's not that addictive.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't even mean. I forgot there was no prescription. That's yeah. But that's what I mean. So it's a thing that can creep up on you. Whereas a lot, even like if people nowadays that are taking heroin, they know they're taking heroin. You know what I mean? It's there's no grey area to it. So I think that just having this openness and being able to just talk to you about it and hear other people's stories, it's a really helpful thing, and seeing that things that you think are not addictive. Like a lot of people wouldn't have even ever thought that you go into a shop or into a pharmacy and buy painkillers. That could be a serious addiction, a life-threatening addiction.
Yeah, I mean, like me, I said I've been on all the strong painkillers. I just underestimated Nurofen Plus, and Solpadeine is the same, just with the paracetamol. But I definitely thought I'll be fine here because I can buy it over the counter. It's not that strong, but sure, it's as strong as anything if you take more. You know what I mean? So that's what happens to everybody. And again, it's not me trying to fearmonger or anything like that. I said it is important that people can use pain medication, but like you just hit on, I think more awareness around the potential for problems with it. I think that really has to be pushed more than it is now.
Well, you see, it is the ninja in the situation, because I've had friends over the years who got really messed up on like Lyrica, like pregabalin and tramadol, like on the dangerous ones, because they knew they were the dangerous ones. But these lads were going out, meeting a van at 5 o'clock in the morning to go and work on a site in Dublin in the middle of winter, freezing cold, hands in bits, back in bits, neck in bits, few pregabalin, bit of tramadol, and then over time that became a problem because their routine was pain, if that makes sense, and their routine was pain. But for this, you wouldn't think twice about Nurofen Plus. It's just because when I heard your video, when I saw your video on TikTok, I was like, I'll be honest, I didn't think Nurofen Plus and Solpadeine was codeine addiction. It just didn't register with me like that. And then it was like, fuck, everybody could be on this.
It is, no, and I think a lot of people, if they have a heavy weekend coming up, will make sure that they've got Nurofen Plus or Solpadeine, for the next morning. And, it is, I think most households have a box or two of it lying around, for sure.
Yeah, I have 3 boxes from the dentist up there. I'll be throwing them out. Yeah. But yeah, it's a scary thing. And especially something when it's, you don't know, it can creep up on you like that,
No, that's why I'm talking, and I haven't stopped talking about it. Is just, but I mean, the reason more so I'm talking about it is that the people who are going through it know that they're not alone. Like, I would have loved to have chatted to somebody when I first realised I had a problem. It would have made me get help a lot quicker. I know it would have, and so that's the main reason I'm talking about it. But also just to raise awareness on it. Just, don't let yourself underestimate the power of an over-the-counter codeine tablet.
Yeah. So, we can say, anyone listening to this podcast and knows anybody that could be in this boat, have a look at Mark's videos.
Reach out
and
Mark's Recovery. He can put you in the right direction. It's at Mark's Recovery.
Yeah. And I really enjoy chatting to people, and I chat to so many. And I said the live events I do on TikTok are even better, because it's not just me chatting. It's me talking on the video, but it's all the people in the comments actually opening up and saying, oh, this is my clean time. I'm 3 days off it, or I'm a week off it, or I'm yet to start, I'm scared to start. And the interaction you get between people, which doesn't happen.
That's great.
So that's why TikTok is it's an amazing tool, again, which I'm totally, I mean, for me to say that TikTok is that important to my own recovery, it seems crazy, but it is true.
But it's a massive platform, and it has more reach now probably than Instagram. Like it's very, they're very different platforms, but TikTok seems to be the one that can reach the masses, I suppose.
It's social media in general. We hear a lot about the bad side of it, and how there's so much discourse and disagreement and bots and all these things. But in reality, it's bringing us closer together, because it's giving everybody a platform to give their opinion. I believe that we're in an early stage of it. So over time, we'll become less chaotic, and it'll become more, and just community starting. We talk about it in music, in all sorts of areas. There's niches that you can go in, you can find, they call it talk, like recovery talk or something they would call it, something like that. So there's so many little niches and ways people can find kind of people who resonate with their story and what they're going through. And I think that's a good side of social media that we don't get to hear about a lot.
It is, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Look, social media gets a very bad rep, but this is proof that it can do good. And it does do good. I mean, I've the amounts of people that are in touch now and feel less alone because of TikTok, and that's 100% the truth, so it is doing good, and I said, I'm not doing anything. I'm just, I shared my story and then allowing others share their stories with me and with others. And that's all it is. But that's enough for people then to go and ask for help, get out of it quicker, and just feel less alone.
Yeah.
Mark, if you had one message for anybody listening now that maybe would be in a similar addiction at the moment, what would it be?
Talk. Don't keep it secret. And if you can go and you can ring your doctor, I mean, for me, it was a big step, but just if you can go and ask for professional help, but at the minimum, tell a friend or a family member that you're struggling with it, and that will just make the big difference.
Every journey starts with a small step, as they say, and once you've made that step, you'll just feel the weight fall away from you.
Mark, over the course of TikTok, especially when some of your videos, some videos go more viral than others, and it opens up the world to a certain brand of troll or a certain type of person who can creep into your comments. And one of the very famous ones that we kind of spoke on was, have you ever seen the guy, and he's the king of chemo. He's a guy, he's dying, he's got 2 brain tumours, and he's raising all this money for cancer, and he's incredible. He was doing a live in an ice bath one time. This is one that just always comes back to me, and the whole thing is just full of positivity. And some guy just wrote, "Dying's gay." And it's just there's trolls out there who just want to fuck up your comment section. Do you know what I mean? And my page is about positivity and helping people, and it still attracts a big number of, I just can't, these fuckwits. I don't understand it. And like that on my lives, and actually something which I didn't mention, there's now 5 other people talking about codeine addiction and coming through it
themselves after I've talked about it on TikTok, and we've come together and we've actually made a little kind of a group, and we help each other now with our lives. But we moderate each other's lives because we need it. Because, again, everybody, 99% of the people in, the hundreds of people come in every night for their lives are there, positive. But you get those few that are just evil people, and whatever kicks to get out of it. People talking about recovery. And you have these people just coming in, leaving the most horrible comments. So
I think it's just a kind of an anonymous outlet for people's own hurt. You know what I mean? I think people who go out, like, if they are real people, which you never even can tell, I always look at negativity like that. I just see it as someone who's lashing out at the world because they see themselves as a victim, or they're hurt somehow themselves. So it's kind of like Philip. Like when we get negative comments, I always leave it a love heart because I just kind of send them love back. Can't do anything about it, and
if I see it first, I try and delete it.
Yeah, Philip will try and delete it. I just give it a love heart. Because
if I see it first, I try and delete it. But if there's already a love heart on it, I can't, because I'm like, right, he's seen it.
Yeah, I love it. But sometimes I take the bait and I go for it. But you know what? It actually gives good material to talk about for me, because it's the attitude of some people towards this that just do not think that codeine addiction is a problem. This is the perfect example of it. And this happens a lot from different people. Go and get yourself a proper addiction. It's only codeine. go and do something stronger. And I'm there talking about how it nearly killed me and destroyed me, and they're like, that's not a real addiction.
These people.
I'm just like, what? What? But bring it on, because then I can do a video reply to it and I talk about it, and it's good to talk about it and say this is why it's actually the problem it is. A lot of people have that attitude that it isn't serious.
And
it isn't
a
problem.
The people who get addicted are people they don't know it's a problem either, and so it's kind of the same unenlightened attitude leads to the addiction, or to pushing the addiction, or to throwing away the addiction as not a real addiction or whatever, Yeah. It's the same thing that none of us actually, like we said, we didn't even know that it was a thing. Like
I didn't know it was as bad as it was. But then, like that, doesn't your ego have a big part of it, right? I've always had an unhealthy relationship with everything, right? Like everything. So like I've abused, even if I start exercising, it becomes unhealthy. So yes, it's all trauma related. Yes, I understand. Gambling, unhealthy. Chocolate, unhealthy. Everything, anything like ADHD. So
Uber
dopamine.
Eats.
So anything that's going to give me that spark of dopamine. But I'm completely open about it. I talk about it. But I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were speaking about another friend of ours who had gone into treatment for gambling, and this friend of mine is shocking. And he turns to me and he goes, "Yeah, your man's in a bad way, isn't he?" And I was thinking, me and you were probably 10 times worse than he ever was. But you know what I mean? It's the ego of it. It's like, he's in a bad way, isn't he? Like, I just in Ireland.
I'm bad, but I'll never be that bad, or the opposite.
No, but that's it.
Or I had a real problem. They don't have that.
He's bad, but he hasn't got a hang of it. It's that.
It all comes back to like the ego. You say we're all just looking at the world through our own filter of experience and trauma and biases and all these things, and we try and make our world, we generalize the world to fit our views, and that leads us into trouble a lot. And I think as we get better as a society to see that we're all just kind of the same thing, looking through different filters, it makes us more understanding as people. And I think we're headed in that way. There's probably a lot more waves to come, a lot more chaos.
Well, I've never cut the head of the snake, and the head of the snake is talking to someone. So what I've always done is, because myself and Jim, we actually met, we were singing in Cyprus together, and we were drinking alcoholically at the time, every night. 10, 15 pints of Guinness a night for 200 nights a year, from they'd open the bar till they closed the bar. And that's what I was doing then. Then I'd go on a health kick of not drinking for a few months, but training to the point of nearly killing myself every day. Then I'd gamble. So then I blocked all the gambling apps on my phone, because the gambling apps were the problem. So instead of just going and talking this out and getting this whole thing, it was always kind of, that's where my
just moving the goalposts.
Just moving the goalposts. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, look, I said I had no experience in the area of addiction or talking to a psychotherapist. It's a world I didn't know anything about, because aware of it or how important it is. And I think that's an important message to get out there as well. It's just whatever you're going through, whatever, it's just talking actually is. I know it sounds corny or whatever, but it's true how good you feel when you actually talk to somebody about a problem. And I've only started to experience that now since I tackled this problem.
And there's an anxiety about like revealing that you're not the strong person. You have this weakness. Like there's an anxiety, but it's actually a strength, because as soon as you do it, like as soon as you stop lying to yourself and others, you see that it's just a weight lifted off you more than it's always the fear of doing something that's worse than the actual doing.
Absolutely. And one kind of important thing to say as well, when I started to talk, and I talked to my family and my friends about, you know, my struggles with this, and just generally being more open about my feelings, so have they.
Yeah.
My friends now, especially two good lads, and like we're actually a lot more open now since I have, because they feel comfortable. Well, if Mark's talking about it, then I'm going to talk about it. And it's actually made a difference. Yeah. And the same with my family. I said my family, an amazing family, so supportive, but we were all bad at saying if something was troubling us. And we are much more open now since this has happened. It's there hasn't been many benefits of this addiction, but that is one that has led to people in my life and for them being more open about talking.
Yeah, communicate better.
Yeah.
We talk about the dualities collapsing a lot in this podcast.
Drink. I was wondering when he was going to do it. I was wondering. I was like, how is he going to work the dualities into this episode? There's no way he can possibly do it.
I feel like all of our traditional roles, like men have to be stiff upper lip and all, they're kind of they're falling away. We're meeting in the middle, like where we don't have to have these big polarized sides, where men are becoming better at talking or better at being caregivers, and then women are being more successful in the workplace and more successful professionally, and all these. I think we're kind of slowly dropping away all the long held like kind of genetic and thing like roles that had to be played, and in a way now you can talk about feelings where before, like, that was, you know, when we were younger anyway.
Without a doubt.
There was a real fear about doing it, like, and people would have been afraid. Like, as soon as they heard someone talking about their feelings, their own feelings would be fear, and then it would escalate into bullying or whatever else the worries was at the time. So I think it's another way that we tend to focus on the chaos of the world, but often we don't see how much we're improving, I think. And I think that's, if we could focus more on that, maybe it would be a lot easier to navigate.
Mark, thank you so much for coming into us today.
I've loved it.
You're an absolute legend. Fair play to you, buddy.
Cheers, Mark. We're delighted to hear your story, and we're delighted you're on the other side of it, and you're doing such a good paying forward your recovery, and you're helping others in the same way.
Go on TikTok now and follow Mark's recovery.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I really, really enjoyed it.
Right, so that's it for episode 46. I hope you got something from this. It was great for Mark to join us today, and don't be afraid to reach out if you're having any problems, whether it be mental, addictive, or any other way, because talking always helps. That's it for this episode.
Stay bold.
Sláinte. Brilliant.